Well, time now for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week, and we'll start here in Nigeria. For close to 2 weeks since the Dangote refinery started production, petrol is yet to be released to the Nigerian market. Now, questions abound as to what is causing this delay. Arise correspondent Georgina Ndukwe Izinyeka examines this in this worrisome development.
The claims and counterclaims between the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and Dangote refinery regarding the supply of refined petroleum products to the domestic market has now left Nigerians wondering how long they would have to keep buying petrol at a high price. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited kicked off the month of September by finally admitting that its debt to petrol suppliers had placed a financial strain on the company and poses a threat to the sustainability of petrol supply. As expected, reports of an increase in the pump price at the NNPC filling stations became a reality. Gradually, filling stations owned by NNPC adjusted their prices from 617 naira per litre to 897 naira per litre. Other privately owned filling stations followed suit and are currently selling above 900 naira per litre. This coincided with the much anticipated first petrol production from the Dangote refinery. More than a week after then, the Dangote PMS is yet to be released to the domestic market. Dangote management clarified that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has not commenced the lifting of its refined product as it is yet to finalize the contract. Aside this, the oil firm says it cannot determine, fix, or influence the product price of petrol as the market is strictly regulated. Although the initial report was that NNPC will be the sole off-taker of Dangote's PMS. But NNPC Limited has now said Dangote is free to sell to other marketers. It is now being speculated that Dangote may resort to exporting its petrol if local sales do not materialize due to NNPC's pricing strategy and market conditions. Public sentiment is mixed, with many Nigerians hoping that the introduction of Dangote's refined products will alleviate petrol shortages and lower prices, especially as the country grapples with rising petrol costs. But then, where is the Dangote petrol and what is the price? Georgina Ndukwe, Arise News.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has reiterated that though painful in the short term, the removal of fuel subsidy was designed to free up budgetary resources for critical investments in infrastructure and social services. The president also disclosed that his administration has taken courageous steps to reform Nigeria's macroeconomic environment with a focus on restoring confidence in the nation's economy. This, he said, the federal government was rigorously working to actualize through measures targeted at reducing inflation, stabilizing the foreign exchange market, and improving fiscal management. Tinubu, who was represented by Vice President Kasim Shettima at the 17th Annual Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria Banking and Finance Conference held in Abuja, explained steps being taken to restore confidence in the nation's economy.
Nigeria's economic story is one of resilience, determination, and gradual recovery. Despite the global challenges, including the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, geopolitical tensions, and inflationary pressures, our nation continues to press forward. Our GDP growth recorded at 3.19% in the second quarter of 2024 reflects our commitment to laying the foundation for long-term stability and prosperity. The services and industrial sectors have been key drivers of this growth, showing that our economy is diversifying. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as a government, we have recognized the challenges and are deploying several initiatives towards addressing them. Some of these include macroeconomic stabilization measures. We have taken bold steps to reform the macroeconomic environment. Our focus is on restoring confidence in the Nigerian economy through measures aimed at reducing inflation, stabilizing foreign exchange market, and improving fiscal management. though painful in the short term. The removal of fuel subsidies is designed to free up budgetary resources for critical investments in infrastructure and social services, and frequent adjustment of the monetary policy rate, a move aimed at curbing inflation and fostering a more market-oriented exchange rate system.
Well, you know, beginning with this back and forth of between NNPCL and the Dangote refineries, I think all I just want to add to this, because we have touched on it so much already, you know, in our previous shows and even during the week, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edun, definitely announced that the Dangote refinery will start distributing PMS on Sunday. So tomorrow, we keep an eye out to see if this is actually going to come into fruit.
15th of September.
Yeah, 15th of September. Edu, he did say that this particular... he was glad that all the agreements had been completed and the loading of this first batch of PMS from the Dangote refinery will commence. And also, he also added in his statement that from October 1st, NNPC Limited will commence the supply of about 385, BPD of crude oil to the Dangote refinery to be paid for in Naira, and in return, the Dangote refinery will supply PMS and the diesel of equivalent value to the domestic markets to be paid in Naira. So I think it's at this point, it really is a waiting game to see exactly how this will affect petrol pricing, even though that conversation has already been had, that because of how much it actually takes to produce the PMS here in Nigeria, we might not necessarily be seeing a dip in those pricing. And as for the economic policies that, we're seeing the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, defending, I don't know.
On behalf of the President.
On behalf of the President, I don't know. We'll just, like we've been talking about this for far too long. He has defended the economic policies a number of times, but the reality, when it really comes to the actual reality of Nigerian citizens, it is not getting better. So, just try and be in touch with the Nigerian people. Mr. Steve.
All right. I mean, two important issues, and you are very correct. Both are important. First, the Dangote refinery and the waiting game. There's little that Nigerians can do, but we can't stop talking about it. I like what Mr. Wale Edun, the Minister of Finance, is saying in terms of reiterating the expectations. From tomorrow, 15th of September, this is what we expect that we will get from Dangote refinery. And the hope of Nigerians, many Nigerians, rest on the fact that, okay, maybe things will change, because we have had to deal with this madness of expensive fuel and then not being inadequate. For, I believe, it's more than a month now, isn't it? That people have been dealing with it. And sometimes if you take a trip outside of the country, you come back to meet the same madness, and it's not a palatable thing. So I like what Mr. Wale Edun said, but of course we know that it does not stop with a minister just reassuring Nigerians that this is what we expect Dangote to do. We will need to hear clearly from Dangote refinery owners and handlers themselves. We will need to be clear what NNPC is saying, because we have witnessed for a long time this ding-dong affair between NNPC and Dangote refinery. And more importantly, we also need to hear from the marketers, who, by the way, have confirmed that they have received an invitation from the Dangote refinery, about what they can get, etc., and the procedure to follow. Let's hope that there will be sincerity in how all these three important stakeholders will deal with each other, so that Nigerian people can at least have some respite, because frankly speaking, things are tough and rough for many people. As for the president continuing to defend his policies, I just hope that he will understand that the welfare of the people is as critical as the Bretton Woods institution that he appears to be trying to please with the policies that he's pursuing. When you hear not just, ordinary Nigerians are complaining every day, but when you now begin to hear clearly and loudly not just members of the APC, but people who have the ears of the president, ostensibly, people who are close to the seat of power, saying things like Emitife Bow, that is getting close to to death, situation, then you need to maybe have a different way of looking at the policies that you are pursuing vigorously. When you hear people on Facebook, people that that are somewhat close to the president, talking about the fact that they are now switching off fridges, switching off appliances at home because of the amount of money they are spending on electricity, the amount of time they are wasting at fuel stations, and the amount that they are using. And I think Oji also mentioned it, yesterday, returning to what's trending, 93,000 to fill up a car. That's more than a minimum wage. Of course, you can argue that those on minimum wage will probably not be riding a car or riding a type of car. But this is the situation that practically everybody is facing, and it's tough, frankly speaking. There's no sugarcoating it. I hope that the president and those who are close to him will say, yes, we can say to him that, yes, we agree that reforms are necessary, but let us also consider how people can cope with the effect of the reforms beyond throwing rice and palliatives at it every time.
Yes, I mean, we're going to discuss the rice and palliative issue in detail later on. But, as the saying goes, when elephants fight, the grass suffers. This fight between Dangote Refinery, NNPCL, Ipman, which is the marketers,
they're fighting,
and the federal government. Well, it seems maybe they were showing each other their horns or showing each other their trunk sizes, because this face-off that has been going on for a couple of weeks, unfortunately, it's the Nigerian people who suffer for it, right? It's us that has to deal with the scarcity. It's us that has to do with the higher prices. And it's also the Nigerian people who have to bear the brunt of the uncertainty in the market. And beyond us hoping for better behavior from everyone, I think we must also require them to be transparent in this process. Absolutely. Because the NNPC is the NNPCL. They are not a regulator. They are an actual, company. They're not a regulator. The federal government has its own unique role that's separate from NNPC's role, and so do the marketers. And so when these dealings and these negotiations are going on in obscurity, we need more transparency. The Nigerian people need to understand, is Dangote Refinery giving a price of PMS to Ipman? Is it a different price to NNPC? They have come out and said they'll purchase in Naira. However, there needs to be transparency, because our energy security is also important in the long run.
Yes.
We can't negotiate our security and leave it in the hands of Dangote and his goodwill. And beyond that, also going to the president, the reason why the vice president is speaking on the president's behalf is because the president is not on seat, as Nigerians like to say. The president is abroad. He is abroad, and we have seen lovely images of him with King Charles in the UK. However, that's also what the female rugby team from Australia did just last week. It's not work. It is a personal visit. It's not to move Nigeria forward. That's not what's going on right now. The president is on a personal visit. And when we to talk about these things...
At what point was that communicated to Nigerians? By the way, that,
it was not,
after leaving China,
that he would go to England. And I yet to believe that we'll see him before he proceeds to New York. And beyond just us, we're not complaining about the air miles on his new plane. We have not had a Federal Executive Council meeting in the time that the president has been gone. If you believe the vice president can speak on your behalf to defend the policies of your administration, then you should also be able to allow the vice president hold the Federal Executive Council meeting, because things are not being signed off on, things are being delayed, and this is a very important time when crisis. There is no reason why the FEC should not hold. I don't believe since either maybe the 25th of June or early July, we have not had a Federal Executive Council meeting sit, because the president is not in the country. So, these things are important for us to call out, because if Shetima can come and speak to us about the president's policies, if he can come and speak to the people of Maiduguri to console with them, then he should be able to, in his capacity as the vice president of Nigeria, hold a FEC meeting.
That's an important point, that you brought in there, the vice president standing in for the president. But of course, you're very correct that, we should call out these things. At what point will the president return? I mean, why can't we have information about these things? Does it have to do with the fact that there's a hole?
Down, so maybe that's
that's where I'm going. That is there a hole in the communication department of the president, or is just the style? Because if you look at it from get-go, it looks like the style of this administration is usually to branch somewhere else. Once you are done with the official thing that you communicated to Nigerians. I think it is important not to take Nigerians for granted and for people to, have the idea that they can trust the communication that is coming from the president. But we proceed. All right, a yet to be verified number of correctional service inmates have been declared missing in Maiduguri, Borno State, following this week's devastating floods. Nigeria's Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, visited Maiduguri to sympathize with the people and to assess the extent of damage caused by the flooding of the correctional center. Speaking to journalists thereafter, the minister stated that the number of missing inmates is still sketchy because of ongoing efforts to make a compilation.
It's a sad moment, and we empathize with the people of Borno. And of course, the government is very much concerned, and you can be rest assured that the government will not just do stock taking as we've done today, but we'll make sure that at least we do our best, to set things right. And in terms of our facilities, the correctional center, actions are presently ongoing. There are certain things I won't be able to disclose at now because of security reasons, but you can be sure that we're on top of situations, 100%. The immigration passport office was affected, but the people of Borno can be rest assured that once we get back to Abuja, we will try as soon as possible with immediate effect to create another center, where they can start their normal activities. And of course, the fire service was also affected, but all this are just, to me, they are minor issues compared to the generality of the impact of the flood, on the people of Borno. It's a sad moment, and they can be rest assured that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration will not let them down. The administration cares. The VP was here yesterday, and today, as the Minister of Interior, I'm here with my service chiefs and Secretary of the Border. Tells you how important we view this particular incident, and you can be rest assured that we will up our game and make sure that we bring succor to the people of Borno State.
All right, I mean, that's a bad one, but it should be expected given the impact of the flooding in Maiduguri in Borno State. But then if after how many days we are still talking about unspecified number of inmates that have escaped, I'm not so sure if that is good enough, which is not just about what has happened in Borno, but it's something that I believe the Honorable Minister will need to improve upon as far as our correctional centers are concerned. We recall the issue of jailbreak the other time. Once people elope like that, you really can't determine, what happens. But in this case, we do not even know if any of the inmates are dead or they're just, basically escaped. So there's a whole lot that will need to be done in the interim. I like the fact that he has kind words for the people of Borno, and is giving assurance, just like the Vice President Kashim Shettima did, on behalf of the President. But the point is that, what is the state of our correctional centers, in emergency cases like this, and what will the government do to, account for those who are no longer there? Because at the end of the day, it might turn out to be that those who have escaped are hardened criminals that you do not want them, roaming about the streets, roaming about the towns and cities in Borno. If they have not left Borno already, we don't know what has happened. So the minister will need to work more with the authorities, I believe the police, to ensure that the hardened criminals among them do return or are apprehended, one way or the other.
Yes, I mean, beyond even just the hardened criminals returning, Borno has been an epicenter for terrorism and Boko Haram activity in Nigeria. And so the danger of possible terrorists escaping from a prison is not, it goes beyond just the situation right now, the current situation of the floods and the humanitarian crisis there. Now, on Tuesday, it was reported that the back perimeter fence of the prison collapsed due to the rains and that prisoners escaped. Some sources are claiming that it's about 400 prisoners who escaped on Tuesday, and that the prison officials were shooting in the air to try and prevent some of the inmates from fleeing. However, that did not occur, and that was due to the rising waters. Now, if there are about approximately 400 prisoners who have escaped, that is a cause for concern, and it's a serious cause for alarm. And we have seen the minister come out to speak to us just in April of this year when heavy rains caused another prison wall to fall. That time was in Abuja. It was Suleja prison, I believe, where the heavy rains in late April of just this year caused the wall to fall. So now we have to think about if the infrastructure that we have in our prisons across the country can be washed away in rainy season. This cannot be a recurring event. It cannot be an event that is recurring across the country, because we already have a situation where in a lot of our prisons are even filled with people who have not even yet seen their day in court. Those who have seen their day in court, quite a few of these people have been arrested, particularly in Borno, for terrorism.
Yes.
So it is not, these are prisons that hold some of our most dangerous elements of society. And so this is not something that should be taken lightly. As the minister said, yes, there are other important considerations. However, it is important for the Nigerian prison population to know if we should be on the lookout for certain terrorists or bandits or inmates. And it's hard to believe that the Nigerian Correctional Services are not aware of who may be still within their walls and who's unaccounted for. It seems that what we're having here is a lack of communication to the public as to not cause alarm. But it is better for us to be forewarned now, for us to now be trying to respond after the fact.
Definitely. And just to reiterate what you said, talking about us not even knowing exactly who is left behind and who's, at this point, we should know the faces of these people, at least their names of these inmates that have been able to escape, so that at least the people of Borno State and other surrounding states can be on the lookout. Because, who wouldn't want to take advantage of that weak infrastructure? If you're in a prison cell and for some reason the back door of your prison cell opens and there's a flood, you're going to want to take advantage of it, especially if you are a terrorist.
It could even be a matter of life and death.
Exactly.
You do not know what's happening, what's coming.
Exactly. You could actually, it's quite a dangerous time. But Nigerians are traumatized by the displacements, by the deaths, by the destruction of properties caused by the raging flood in the country. And, I think outside of all of this, we just need to, President Bola Tinubu just needs to should intensify the rescue efforts by emergency response agencies and the military. We saw the military, of course, step in very swiftly. Kudos to them. About 12 to 18 hours after the flooding, you could see them bringing people out, and even the members of of the community have reiterated the fact that if they didn't see that, they might have actually lost more lives, and there might have been more people displaced. And finally, I just believe that we need to rejig our climate change strategies. It's not just about attending COP and talking about it. It's actually about looking at our strategies and being alert so that we can reduce this devastating impact of natural and future disasters.
Climate change was part of what the president discussed with the king, by the way. And everybody's preparing now for, is it Azerbaijan that will host the next COP?
Yes. It's very important because climate change is inadvertently affecting us much more severely in Africa than it is those in the West. They contribute to it more, but it affects us more. And when we're expecting flooding in another 2 weeks, and I hope the federal government and the governors of the states that are going to be affected are not going to come and now be surprised again, because we all know
act surprised.
Because when Cameroon releases their dams, The rivers are going to some rivers banks are going to break,
And it will get to some states
all
in
the way
south side.
all the way down
All
to
the way down.
Anambra.
All
You
the way
have to
down
be
to
proactive. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to our next story, where the Independent National Electoral Commission this week held an interactive meeting with stakeholders in Edo State as preparations are reaching the top gear ahead of the 21st of September governorship election. At the meeting, there was an exchange of words between the People's Democratic Party and the Inspector General of Police, Kade Egbetokun. Arise correspondent Christy Makole Odegwa has the details. Well, I think let's discuss that first before we watch that report coming out of Edo State. Edo State elections are coming up, and it is next Saturday. And unfortunately, what we have seen in the past week has been a sparring between the current governor and the IG of police. We had a member of not the Nigerian police force, but a spy police officer in police uniform standing out and declaring support for the APC and saying the APC was going to win the election, standing in front of people who claim to be members of the APC wearing hats with the logos of the APC candidate. We also have in the last 24 hours, it seems, a court issue for the APC candidate in terms of his age falsification. We have three major parties running in Edo State elections. We have the PDP candidate with Asue Godalo, we have the Labour Party candidate who is Olumide Akpata, and we have the APC candidate, Senator Okpebolo.
And 11 others. Those are the front runners.
I said we have three main. I said
okay,
main,
yeah.
yes. I said these are the main, these are the front runners.
Yeah.
These are the front runners.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you see the situation unfolding?
It's down to the wire, isn't it? By next Saturday, Edo is always interesting, given the manner in which, in the last 8 years or thereabout, and even if you take it further back to the Oshiomhole days, you find a governor trying to fight a godfather or fighting godfathers and then emerging. But I think what has been happening in Edo State is of concern to many people. We cannot allow Edo State to go to the dogs. And this is the reason why I may be disappointed in the approach of the governor and the party, including, of course, the candidate, the governor being Godwin Obaseki, and the candidate, Asue Ighodalo, in refusing to sign the peace accord. I appreciate the argument that you do not trust the system, and they were specific about the two things, that are very dear to them. The issue of the REC being close to Wike, the former governor of Rivers State and the minister of FCT.
Who yesterday declared that he was not supporting Asue Ighodalo and the PDP candidate in the election. He did yesterday declare that he was not supporting them on
granted. Yeah.
Yes. So
that won't surprise anybody,
But he's come out, to say that he's come out to say this clearly instead of it just being people guessing or he's come out to speculative. He's come out to say that my stance is that I am not supporting the PDP candidate. The PDP have said that REC is closed, but also they have said that the governor has come out to say that 16 of their members have been arrested in Edo State by the same police. So I do think that calls into, so they're calling into question the independence of both the Electoral Commission, who is in charge of the results, and the security apparatus that's in charge of keeping law and order in the state.
I agree with you. Like I said earlier, I appreciate the concerns by the party, and by the governor and by the candidate. But again, all those concerns do not amount to you not signing a peace accord. Because what you are therefore suggesting is that you may not give peace a chance. Because from 2014 that the National Peace Commission thing has been on, I doubt if we have had any situation like this. People have been reluctant. Sometimes people will, air their views and everything. But to come out clearly and say that because of all these issues and because there's no assurance that our grievances will be dealt with, we will not sign the peace accord. What is therefore the alternative? Is it that you will take the law in your own hands or what? Or is it that we should assess what you're doing based on what the chairman of the party in Edo State said while threatening that if the candidate of the party is not declared the winner, the Edo State will burn. I think those
that
are
needs
not,
to be called. Yes,
absolutely.
That's absolutely abhorrent.
And it's suggestive of a untoward situation that may happen in Edo State. And I hope that there will be a review. It's almost late now, but I think that one way or the other, the Edo State people, the Nigerian people, will need to extract a commitment from Edo PDP, the governor, the candidate, that they will be committed to peace and that they will be committed to using constitutional means to seek redress if the election does not go their way. It is not about threatening people and saying that we will not agree. We no go agree should not happen in Edo State.
Definitely. Well, we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Police are set to deploy 35,000 men, and Kayode Egbetokun has come out and he has assured the Nigerian people that they will do everything in their power to make sure that the September 21 Edo gubernatorial elections...
Fair, they should be fair and not be partisan.
Definitely. Definitely. Well,